I think I'm in focus. And I'm ready to talk normally and look at the camera and not have my audio click and all that good stuff. Hi guys, I'm Daphne and welcome to my channel, The Less Than 3 Project. Today I am going to be sort of giving an introduction to a series I'm going to be starting called The Download. The Download is going to be my favorite movie and TV shows and books and all that kind of sort of entertainment stuff from the past month. But I thought perhaps you might want to know a little bit about my tastes before you decided whether The Download was something that you should actually listen to. So I am going to be giving you sort of a favorites list, some of the movies and TV shows that I actually like a lot. And hopefully that'll just give you a little bit of an idea of whether you like The Download or not. Let's start at my favorite movie of all times, Ghost World. And I hope you've heard of Ghost World because it is an amazing movie. I saw it originally in 2001 when it first came out, and I loved it. It is sort of a coming-of-age tale starring Thora Birch, Scarlett Johansson, and Steve Buscemi, and it really spoke to me when I was a kid because it was sort of dark, but it was really funny. It portrayed the life of some misfits, and I felt like a misfit when I was growing up. I guess everybody sort of feels like they don't really belong, and this movie really just helped me sort of get through that. There's also a graphic novel that it is based on, which I've never read, and now thinking about it, I've never read that. It's my favorite movie. I should really read that. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna tell you about it next month in the download because I will have read it, I promise you. But anyways, it's got a great cast, as I mentioned, Thora Birch, Scarlett Johansson, and Steve Buscemi, and I sort of fell in love just a little bit with Steve Buscemi when I first saw the movie. It also has this really interesting Bollywood feel to it because the main character, Enid, played by Thora Birch, is really interested in Bollywood music, so there's got some really good music in it as well. Next on my list is The Avengers, and The Avengers is going to sort of stand in for all of the MCU for me because I can't go list out all of the MCU and why I liked all of them. Actually, maybe I can. Maybe I wrote a post about that on my website, and maybe I'll link it here on the screen and put it in the description box, because when the Avengers 2 Age of Ultron came out, I might have done a Marvel movie marathon and talked a little bit about why I love Marvel movies, so if you're interested in that, check it out. But let me talk a little bit about Avengers and why I love the MCU. I've always been a Marvel girl, but I've been specifically an X-Men girl. My dad used to take me to comic stores and comic shows when I was just much younger, and I always gravitated to X-Men, probably because of the show, the cartoon, but I really am happy they've done such a good job of adapting the sort of Avengers part of Marvel, because I never knew how cool it was, and Iron Man, Captain America were great, but I really fell in love with the franchise with Avengers because it was just so epic, and everything came together, and all the characters were just so well realized, and the special effects are amazing, and it just makes me feel so happy when I watch it. And I have watched it so many times. I won't even mention how many times I've watched it, but I have watched it about 1,000,000 times. And Avengers is also great because it has Joss Whedon. And Joss Whedon, as you'll find out later, is one of my favorite filmmakers because he brings a lot of his humor into the movies he makes, but he also brings humanity into it. So it is a really great combination and really sucks me into the universes he creates. So I talked about how the Avengers was really epic, and so I'm gonna throw 3 movies together sort of that illustrate the fact that I really love epic movies. There's Star Wars, there's Lord of the Rings, and Independence Day. And you might say, Daphne, those have nothing to do with each other, but in my mind they do, because they're all very epic. You know, Star Wars is this fantastical science fiction operatic masterpiece, and I don't have to tell you that Star Wars is a masterpiece because it totally is. And then you have Lord of the Rings, which is epic in a completely different way because it's this fantasy world that sort of resembles our own but doesn't really, because it has all these magical creatures in it, and it's just, you know, epic heroes, epic battles, really well adapted by Peter Jackson, and I really love those movies. And then Independence Day, and you probably are like, Daphne, why is that with those other two? It doesn't really fit. I love Independence Day, and I'm not gonna lie and say that Independence Day is as good as the Lord of the Rings franchise and the Star Wars franchise, because it's definitely not. But it has this sense of epic heroes, people who are there to save the planet, and they do it really, really well. And it's a great movie. It makes me feel patriotic, which I don't feel all the time. Some really great special effects. My dad really loves it because it blows up all of his most hated cities, including Houston, because he's from Texas and he really hates Houston. I don't know. And those are just a few of the really epic movies that I love. Next, I want to talk about some movies that I loved when I was growing up. One of my earliest memories of movies is going to see The Little Mermaid. I loved The Little Mermaid. I mean, especially the music. I have memories of singing all the songs with my best friend and pretending we were Ariel and we were trying to sing but keep the sea witch away from us, and oh god, so such good memories. I also have good memories of some other sort of childhood films, and they might sort of confuse you because it's The Never-Ending Story and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The Never-Ending Story, it's maybe the burgeoning of that epicness I was talking about before, but there's just, so much cool stuff that goes on in that movie. Fighting bullies and, getting lost in a book, which I often did when I was a little kid. Falcor, the Luck Dragon, trying to save the world. Pretty amazing movie. And Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Looking back at Willy Wonka, I'm a little confused about why my parents let me watch it, because it is a very, 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 very weird movie. And I watch it now and I'm like, what is going on in here? But I still love it. I love the colors. I love the world they created. I love that it is adapted from a really great book that I read when I was a kid. So those are just a few of sort of the kid movies I watched. Next, let's just talk about zombies. Yes, I have a whole category of zombie movies, but I'm only going to limit it to 3 movies that I will say are my favorite zombie movies. I do love them all, but I'll pick 3 just for brevity's sake. Shaun of the Dead introduced me to Nick Frost, Simon Pegg, and Edgar Wright. A great zombie story, but it's got so much great humor in it, and it really, I love it, and I watched it over and over and over again, and I'll kind of want to watch it right now after thinking about it. Secondly, we've got Dawn of the Dead. Not the old one. The old one is great, but the new one I like a little bit more. The zombies are so much more well realized, and it's not kind of hokey and silly like the George Romero one. And finally, let's talk about World War Z, which not so many people seem to like when it came out, but I liked it a whole lot. I think I like it so much because of the special effects. It seems really cool. And then my favorite sort of set piece in it is when they're in Jerusalem and the zombies are crawling up the walls. That's so cool. I'm not sure why I like zombie movies so much. I think perhaps it's because zombies are very creepy and scary, but it seems like it's something that could really happen, so it really sort of shakes me to my core. And after I've watched some zombie movies, I usually have dreams about fighting zombies for a while after. I do love a lot of old movies, but I'm just going to talk a little bit about my favorite older movie, which is Singing in the Rain. Singing in the Rain is the perfect movie for me. It's got drama, it's got comedy, it's got great music. I mean, the music is amazing. I listen to the soundtrack. If I'm just like cleaning up after dinner, I'm like, let me put on Singing in the Rain, and I dance around and listen to the soundtrack. It's got Gene Kelly, who I absolutely love, and Debbie Reynolds, who is just so adorable and cute. The setting is old Hollywood, which I'm a big fan of. So if you've never seen Singing in the Rain, you definitely need to watch it. So you may have noticed there's not a lot of romantic movies on this list. They're not my favorite movies because a lot of them, I like the feeling that they give me of like, oh look, they got together and things are going to work out. That's really nice, but they're not the best movies. They're very sort of predictable. But if you just want to feel good about, a day, watch a romantic movie. But I do have a favorite romantic movie, and that is 500 Days of Summer. And I like it because it is different from those other romantic movies. You've got 2 really awesome people who by all rights should end up together, but they just don't, and it's okay. So 500 Days of Summer, super realistic in terms of its portrayal of romance, but it's also a very stylized movie. The way they sort of showcase Los Angeles makes me love that city even more and makes me want to go there again, really, really badly. And then the acting, I think, is really great. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, his resurgence. Zooey Deschanel, I think it introduced the world to her even more, even though I already knew who she was. The soundtrack is amazing. You can see I've talked a lot about the music. I think the music really adds to all these movies that I was talking about. But the soundtrack is really good, and I definitely recommend listening to it if you haven't. Dramas, definitely, I do like some dramas, but my favorite dramas all are usually sort of historical dramas. So there's like Pride and Prejudice, which gives you sort of a good view of Georgian England in the 18th century, I guess. Schindler's List, which in my opinion is the best film about the Holocaust, which I've watched a lot of Holocaust films because that was just like a big theme in my education. I don't know, but I think that's probably one of the best. LA Confidential, I mentioned that I love LA and I love old Hollywood, and LA Confidential takes place in LA in sort of that 1950s Hollywood era, but it's not about that. It's about sort of crime and really cool stuff, and there's a book that's really good as well. A new favorite that I have just put on this list because I think it's very important to talk about it is Mad Max Fury Road. It is a brilliant movie. It is a crazy movie. It is a stunning movie. It is a wonderfully shot movie. I like that a lot of the effects are practical effects, so you actually feel like it's happening. It's not sort of a computer generated image that, you know, nothing's really gonna hurt it because it doesn't actually exist. I love that. I love that the color schemes in each scene, the super overblown brightness, and then you go into darkness and it almost like your eyes can't adjust to it. It's just such a really well done movie, and I'm so happy that it's gotten so much praise because it's taken a long time for this guy to do this movie, so I'm really glad that it's working out for him. You see a good mix of sort of geeky stuff, actiony stuff, sort of drama and comedy, and then my little like girly center of heart. So that is the movies. But let me talk just briefly about some TV shows that I like. You'll definitely see some parallels with the movies, and I'm going to start in a similar way. If you ask me, Daphne, what's your favorite TV show of all time? I will say Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Once again, there's Joss Whedon right there, right at the tippy top. Just has this Joss Whedon flavor to it, that humanity, that humor. I've cried during Buffy, I've laughed during Buffy, I've been super afraid. Some of the episodes, yeah, you can take them or leave them. Some of them are just amazing. So the top 5 things that I love about this show. First of all, the girl power. Buffy kicks some ass. Willow kicks some ass. Anya kicks some ass. Various other female characters kicked some ass. Number 2, it was a show about growing up for me in some ways. I was definitely growing up and living. Maybe I was a little bit younger than the characters were supposed to be, but I definitely felt sort of a connection with them. Number 3, vampires. Who doesn't love vampires? We're not talking about Twilight vampires here. We're like talking about killing people, ripping their necks out, need to be staked vampire. Then I mentioned before, the humor. It definitely is just very well written, and the characters are very well developed in terms of humor. What would my life be without Xander? And my final of the top 5 things about Buffy that I love is Spike. The next show I'm going to talk about is Doctor Who. And I'll simply say that Doctor Who makes me believe in humanity. It makes me hope for our future. And it also makes me believe a little bit in magic and that the impossible can happen. I love the show. I mean, I'm not such a fan of the new season. I like Peter Capaldi as the Doctor, but I think the writing, Stephen Moffat, what have you been doing? But I will continue watching because I love Doctor Who that much. But seriously, work on that. Walking Dead, zombies once again. Zombies, but it's also about people, and it's pretty cool and dramatic and all that good stuff, and I can't wait for it to come back. October, I think. Always waiting for October. Okay, then I have Parks and Recreation and The Office, and I like these both for a very similar reason, and it's the characters. The characters are written so that you feel connected to them. I don't think I have cried as much as I have cried when I've watched The Office and Parks and Recreation. Like when Jim and Pam got married, there were happy tears. When Steve Carell left the office. It was bittersweet tears. All kinds of things happened in Parks. I can't talk about Parks and Rec because it's too soon since it's been over. I miss it so much. Next, we have Star Trek The Next Generation. And this is a show that I watched when I was a kid. I don't really know why I love it. I mean, I love space, the Final Frontier, just in general. So I think that's why I love it. But one of the things I'm going to do on this channel is try to sort of rewatch some of the stuff that I loved a lot when I was a little kid. So I'm watching Star Trek The Original Series right now, which I had never watched, so this is going to be part of it. But I'm going to try to watch as much of Star Trek The Next Generation as well, just to see if I still like it. So stay tuned to that. We got Downton Abbey, because who doesn't like Downton Abbey? Everyone loves Downton Abbey. I love it. You know, it's British. It's got that sort of historical flair as I was talking about. It's definitely turned into a little bit of a soap opera now, but I have these really great memories of Sunday nights having my friends come over to my apartment and we would watch Downton Abbey together and we would have some tea and we would discuss the show, and it was just really great memories. Finally, let me just say, Game of Thrones. I am like beyond in love with that show. It's definitely got that epicness factor that I was talking about before. And I don't even know how I can put it into words why it's so good. It's just like so many characters and so many twists, and they do things that you don't expect and they kill people off, and it's dragons and fighting and armies, and not all the good guy doesn't always win, and oh, it's so good, it's so good. I'm so mad the season is over. Can't wait for the next one. So I guess on that note, that's sort of the end of all of the stuff that I want to talk about. I'm going to have a more extensive list of more favorites that I like in TV and movies, maybe even some books. Want to sneeze? Or not? So that list is going to be on my Tumblr blog that is related to this channel. And that Tumblr is called thelessthan3project.tumblr.com. So definitely check that out. I'll leave a link in the description box to that. So that is my list of favorites. I hope you liked it. Stay tuned to this channel because I will have the download coming out next, and that's just going to be my list of favorites from this past June. Thanks for watching, and come back for the next one. Bye!